Вітаємо всіх учасників сьогоднішнього міжнародного форуму.
Every participant of the United for Nature Agenda for Ukraine Forum. This is already the second forum in the frames of United for Nature program and United for Justice program. It's an attempt of Ukraine to have some support to hold Russia accountable for committing environmental crimes. So today we'll be talking about the eco side. We have a very sophisticated program. Thank you for coming on time, which is also very important. We'll start with the introductory word with the statements by our speakers. We're waiting for the Prime Minister to join us, and today we'll have representatives of the government, surely the representative of the specialized ministry, as well as our European partners, and the Ministry of Environment of Romania, Bulgaria, and Moldova. Some of our participants will join us online, others offline. We'll have 5 sessions today. Let me briefly mention them. Surely you can read the program on your badges. There's a QR code, so you can scan them and have the program for your more detailed analysis. So 5 sessions, challenges for the environmental reforms as part of the EU, the climate policy and funding of the green transition in Ukraine. The natural resources of Ukraine will also talk about how to earn on waste and how to reduce the CO2 emissions. Plus, they will have 3 presentations from the Ministry of Environmental Protection. The presentation on the reform of the forest sector. Because of the Russian aggression, the Ukrainian forestry is very much affected, because Russia is transporting rainforests to its own territory. Then digitalization. Ukraine is the leading country in terms of digitalization, so it shares its experience in terms of implementing different services for the population. So how to digitalize the environment as well. Maybe that could be something new, but the environment has their own app, so we'll hear about this, and the reform of the state environmental control, which is also very important, particularly in the frames of what to do with our waste, how to sort that, and hopefully most of you are doing this. So if you allow me, I'll provide you with a short memo, because in the frames of our forum we'll have the information on the topical damages in the field of environment as part of Russia's aggression, and we'll have also the presentations by the Ministry of Environment. So let me introduce the Prime Minister of Ukraine, Denis Shmyhal, with his introductory word.
Пане прем'єре, шановні учасники, але
Mr. Prime Minister, before we would like to pass your floor to you, we would like to have a moment of silence.
Дякую. Пане прем'єре.
Thank you. Mr. Prime Minister, you have the floor. Your Excellencies, dear participants of the forum, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to welcome you at the International Forum United for Nature Agenda for Ukraine. Our common goal is to have justice and fair and reliable and peace, and to make the aggressor pay for all the crimes it has committed, including the crimes against the environment. The 8th step of the peace formula clearly underlines this. It involves the assessment of the damages to the environment, about holding Russia accountable about the renovation and rebuilding of our country. According to the Ministry of Environment, over the full-scale aggression, we've identified over 3.6 thousand of crimes against the environment. We've sustained damages of $2.3 trillion. Our forests are under fire. The biodiversity is being damaged. Because of constant shelling, we have over 750,000 tons of waste. According to the Ministry of Environment, hundreds of thousands of square kilometers of Ukrainian land are contaminated with mines and ammunition. Last year, we've recovered over 200,000 agricultural lands, that over 2,000 square the area of our capital. We'll still have to inspect over 512,000 hectares of land, but we'll have a mine threat for many years to come. We'll still need to work with that. We'll need to clean our territory. It's been 8 months since the destruction of the Kakhovka HPP. It prevented water supply to over 30 irrigation systems of 3 regions of Ukraine. We may be losing 14% of our grain export potential. A lot of people were left without the supply of potable water. We've allocated billions of hryvnias to recover that. We've constructed new water pipelines, but while demining the areas, while registering the crimes, we are calculating the damages in order to make the aggressor pay for those. So the principle of Russia pays is fundamental for us. This principle is used for our environmental strategy development, which was presented during the previous forum, and the declaration calls upon the establishment of international environmental platform in order to assess the damages, which clearly correlates with the initiative of our president on the establishment of a global platform for the assessment of damages that he announced in 2022. Under the peace formula, we have an international working group on the environmental damages of the war. But we also count on global support, not only in the assessment of damages, but also in the issue of receiving the compensation using the Russian seized assets as well. We have some progress in this area. We're expecting some decisions by the EU, United States, and other countries allowing to use Russian resources to support Ukraine. That would be an important precedent, so that any aggressor would know that sooner or later he will pay for the damages it caused. Ukraine is also changing. We are having reforms in the field of environment. Last year, we had the reform of the soil use, and we changed the structure. And in 2023, we had 2 billion hryvnia over that sector, which is very important precedent in the reform of the sector in the field of forestry, thanks to the changes. The last year was also record-breaking in terms of the incomes. We've received 3 billion hryvnia out of that, so this is a very important reform. In 2024, we're planning to have more effective environmental policies. This is one of the prerequisites for rebuilding Ukraine based on green standards. Ukraine will definitely win, will deoccupy all the occupied territories, and recovery of our environment will ensure a best future for the next generations. I thank you for your attention, and I wish all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to have a fruitful work. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to heroes. We thank the Prime Minister for the introductory word. That was the Prime Minister of Ukraine, Denis Shmyhal. He has a very intensive agenda for today, therefore he won't be able to stay with us during all the event, but we are grateful for initiating this forum and we're expecting a number of other video statements. We'll have an introductory words for around 30 minutes. We'll have a video recording by the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak. Fellow colleagues, I'm very happy to welcome you at the United for Nature Agenda for Ukraine Forum, which is a logical continuation of the international conference United for Justice, United for Nature. Last year, in October, we had over 500 participants of that conference. And during that conference, we, together with our partners, discussed the scale of Russia's war for the environment, as well as lessons learned over the past 20 years and the mechanisms for full accountability for the damages inflicted upon the environment over the period of the war. We've focused on the global consequences of Russia's war for the whole world, and we called upon the participants to consider the armed aggression against Ukraine and its impact on the environment in the global perspective. And today, we continue our environmental track. Allow me to once again mention that because of the war in Ukraine, we can see unprecedented destruction and contamination of the environment. Russian missiles and mines are contaminating our soils and water with chemical compounds and the damages of raination. We are losing our unique landscapes, our animals and plants. All of that causes a threat for life and health of people. Today we're talking about 3,600 cases of damaging environment as the result of the war. Only in January, we've calculated that the combat operations has caused over 8 billion hryvnia damages to Ukraine. Over 2 years, we're talking about 3 trillion hryvnia. This is a reminder of how the war impacts the environment and the lives of the people. This is a challenge for all of us. Now, in order to get united and reduce the negative impact of the war on the environment, and in order to restore our environment, we don't have a time to spare. Our purpose is to have a fair and comprehensive peace. Therefore, the 8th point of the Ukrainian peace formula, which deals with the protection of the environment, is so important. Its implementation requires a joint vision and collective efforts. The purpose of the 8th point is not only to hold Russia accountable and to restore the Ukraine's environment, to ensure the green reconstruction or the use of the principles of the humanitarian green demining, but also to create universal mechanisms to prevent future wars. The work on the establishment of such a mechanism will be done at 2 levels, at a level of politics and experts. In order to resolve those challenges, we would need innovational and effective approaches, joint rebuilding and recovery programs, technological solutions for clearing, cleansing the soils and water reserves. We need efforts to protect the biodiversity. All of this has to be a part of the comprehensive approach to the resolution of the environmental problems caused by the war. We continue to fight for the environment of our planet and the well-being of the next generations. In 2023, at the International Conference United for Justice, United for Nature, we've presented the Environmental Declaration, and it was mentioned at the key environmental protection platforms around the world. It's supported by Australia, Bulgaria, Estonia, Lithuania, Moldova, New Zealand, Romania, Czech Republic, Sweden. Ukraine continues to draw support around this document, which is calling for the establishment of international platforms, and any countries or international organizations may be joining it, can be mentioned by other politicians and experts. The establishment of a global platform to assess the damages are the steps towards the establishment of universal methodology for the assessment of environmental damages and the introduction of the term ecocide in the international law. Another important aspect is the engagement of a maximum number of international platforms to those initiatives. The global challenges require global solutions, and common efforts of multiple countries are the key prerequisite for the successful implementation of such initiatives. This was mentioned in Davos during the fourth meeting of the National Security Advisors on Peace Formula. We continued our work on the action plan, which is based on the Ukrainian peace formula. The Davos has become a platform for the discussion of the next 5 points, including point 8 on the environmental safety. In this work, we cooperate with Germany, Bulgaria, and Finland, and also a number of other countries like Austria, Brazil, Portugal, Canada, Croatia, France, Sweden, Japan, EU, and UN have joined in this work as well. But the number of participants continue to grow. In Davos, the Montenegro, Moldova, Malta, and Australia have announced that they will be joining the working group on this step as well. We're planning to have the meeting of the working group on every of the steps of the peace formula. So, together with you, our partners, we will reach our objective, that is to hold those accountable for committing the crimes against the nature. I thank you for your attention, and glory to Ukraine. We are grateful to Andriy Yermak, head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, for his introductory remarks, and then we will hear the statement from our EU plot for EU colleagues. We'll have a word by Virginius Sinkevičius.
Ladies and gentlemen, excellent. It is a great pleasure to open this international forum. I would like to start with warm congratulations to all Ukrainians present. Last month saw the historic decision from the European Council to open accession negotiations. That is a remarkable achievement. Despite Russia's war of aggression, Ukraine is still managing to harness the core of the Green Deal, which is fundamental for a sustainable future. You have done that in record time. That's due to the tireless commitment of Ukrainian lawmakers, government, and civil society, and businesses as well. This resilient, more innovative Ukrainian economy deserves a place inside the European Union. However, this is only the start of the process, and much work still lays ahead. There is no time to lose. That's why we held the first introductory meeting last month to kickstart the process of negotiations. We begin with what we call screening. That's a close look at the EU acquis, with in-depth exchanges between EU and Ukrainian experts. And in parallel to that, Ukraine must take stock of where it stands with regards to this acquis. And that's why today's forum is particularly timely. We will be addressing the current and future efforts of Ukraine to ensure a transformation of its policy framework for greater sustainability. This transformation is the heart of the European Green Deal. For Ukraine, it means looking forward to a brighter future of durable prosperity, greater resource autonomy, and higher quality of life. It's not just about the green, it's about everyday life. It's about modernizing infrastructure for water and waste. It's about ensuring industrial plants don't pollute their surroundings. It's about upholding environmental rule of law, for instance, with environmental impact assessments. About developing economic activities that are resource efficient and which avoid excessive dependence on external providers. And of course, it's also indispensable to attract foreign investments in the long run. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. Thank you all for your presence and engagement today. Today's agenda is dense, but I'm sure it will mark an important step in Ukraine's path towards EU integration. Best wishes for the forum today.
Так, дякуємо Віргінісу Сінкевичу, великому другу України, який просуває українське питання і підтримує нас.
For his good words, for his strong support of Ukraine, for his effort to safeguard the environment in the EU. And I'd like to remind you that in just 15 minutes we're going to have the first panel discussion to discuss the challenges Ukraine has been facing, also within the realm of the upcoming negotiations on accession to the Ukraine, in the scope of the Green Cluster. In a matter of minutes, we are going to hear from Ruslan Strelets, Minister of Environment, Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine, with his take of Ukraine's progress in the past year and plans of the country towards further Euro integration. Thank you everyone, dear guests, dear Prime Minister of Ukraine, dear Head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, dear ministers, dear international guests. I can tell you that this forum is truly international because today in this room we have good friends of Ukraine who have been supporting us all the time. Let me mention my friends, Minister of Environment of Moldova, Minister of Environment of Romania, former Minister of Environment of Brazil. We also have with us online the Bulgarian Minister of Environment. Bulgaria is one of the countries supporting close aid of the Ukrainian peace formula, together with German and Finnish partners. This forum is a real continuation of the October Forum, United for Justice, United for Nature, which is an umbrella name, and we intend to make this forum a sectoral one and make it as a framework for further discussion of matters of importance for Ukraine and for Europe and the whole of the world. In 2023, we were appraised by the European Commission, and we were able to prove our ability to successfully implement environmental reforms, even despite the war in Ukraine. And we plan to continue with it this year. Based on the report from the EU, we are encouraged to do that. Our team has charted new vectors towards new reforms. Last year, during the conference, we announced a climate office together with German partners. At COP28, we presented our view of environmental policies to the whole world. And 2024 is definitely the year of the start of climate dialogue for Ukraine. Its integration in the climate-related agenda is not just about European integration. It is also about making Ukraine fit for CBAM borders. Last year, Ukraine got the status of observer in Sevilla process. Now we are moving further towards the best available technologies. And we have to make some decisive steps to further join CBAM this year, 2024. Even despite the war, together with the Parliament and peace, we've been able to approve relevant legislation, providing new opportunities for test running of ETS market, to have a better understanding how ETS will work in Ukraine. We intend to pilot a national ETS system. This year, the monitoring and reporting and verification system for greenhouse gas emissions will kickstart in Ukraine. We are finalizing digitization of the system, and we are working on reporting requirements for installation operators. President Zelensky said about businesses having to comply with their own commitments. They're part of the exercise. paying taxes, working diligently, abstaining from working with Russia. We, from our part, have to facilitate this transition of Ukrainian businesses to higher international and European standards. We have to make it more sustainable, more reliable. We have to capitalize on our successes of our cooperation with Japan and Switzerland within the meaning of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. We will work on attraction of green investments for the rebuilding of the country. Environment protection, protection of nature, is what President of Ukraine, Zelensky, has offered to the world under Clause 8 of its peace formula. And this will become the key objective for reforms of the Ukrainian Environment Inspectorate. In a matter of days, we will pass the second year mark of this fight for freedom. And we are doing what no one, I think, has done so far. We are calculating the losses sustained by Ukraine because of the war. It has become a litmus paper of our capacity to provide decent and reliable environmental control. And to have this control work properly, we are to deeply reform the system. We will switch from the on-site individual inspections to a wholesome nationwide system, from the system of waiting for someone to complain towards the system of daily monitoring of potential impact. 2023 was extremely hard for the water system of Ukraine. Ukraine did sustain the biggest environmental catastrophe since the Second World War. The loss of water because of destruction of Kakhovska Reservoir equals to the loss of water supply, 1.5 years worth of water supply for the whole of the country. Because of that, preservation, restoration of water bodies is of primary importance, and in conditions of the war and the war budget, we still have to ensure accessibility of water resources for every Ukrainian national. The national program Water of Ukraine is about instituting transparent business conditions for businesses, providing people with affordable, high-quality water. Last year, we kick-started the reform of subsoil reserves, and we want to continue the reform this year by introducing a one-stop shop system, much in the vein they have it in the EU. The state has to better assess the environmental impacts of such activities before they even start, and for that reason, we need to start dialogue at the national level, also among extracting industry, within the meaning of our decarbonization efforts. Prime Minister Shmyhal already spoke about the results. A range of digital products already are operational, like certificates for woods and related. 5,000 certificates for logged wood have been issued, more than 10,000 tickets to allow controlled logging have been issued. These are some of the instruments that contribute to successfully ending this forestry reform. We want to ensure that wood processing is done in Ukraine according to European standards, bringing new jobs and making it in a responsible way. In 2023, profits obtained by our national reserve parks grew sevenfold. And this is the result of just operational interventions. We need to stop the discussion around that and finally adopt legislation to allow proper modern-day management of these reserves. By the end of 2024, 10 years in the making. Mezhigorje will open its doors as finally a public institution, as an arboretum and natural reserve of national importance. The area that somewhat had tried to steal from the Ukrainians will finally be returned to the whole of the nation, and this mention of the president that fled the country will be restored for the benefit of everyone. I'm very much sure that this year will finalize the process. 2024 will become the year when reforms towards European integration will continue, also in terms of modern approaches in environment protection. I'd like to thank all the partners for their involvement, for their contribution. I'd like to thank everyone, not just those in the room. Glory to Ukraine. We thank Minister of Environment Ruslan Strelets. We will have more of him during the first panel discussion. And the final welcome word today will be from Margot Wallström, ex-Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sweden. The matter of cooperation with European partners is of great importance, and it will be in the limelight of the first panel discussion. You know why the Ukrainian environment is of importance for the European Union? Because, well, we belong to Europe, and 16% of our territory is made of woods. You can check the map to see the scope of damage inflicted on Ukraine and its environment by war. From my understanding, Margot is already online. Again, former Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sweden.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me? Okay, thank you very much for inviting me, Excellencies, dear friends in Ukraine and friends from Romania, Bulgaria and Moldova as well. Thank you for giving me a few minutes. And I wanted to use those minutes to tell you about the international high-level working group that I have had the honor and pleasure of co-chairing together with Andriy Yermak. And with members from the Ukrainian government, but also international members. And I see one of them in the audience there, and that is former Environment Minister from Brazil, Isabella Teixeira. And thank you very much for giving us this task. And it has been a formidable task for us in this working group, because we had three things to do: to assess the situation when it comes to environmental damage from the war. The second was to look at accountability. How do we make Russia pay for their crimes against Ukraine? And thirdly, how to give advice on how to rebuild Ukraine and do reconstruction in Ukraine. And of course, as you already know, all of you in the audience, this is about oil and soil, it's about foods and woods, it's about dams and dolphins, water and waste, air and care. I want to just give you an idea of what will occur in this report, and we will finish very soon, and hopefully in a short time we will be able to hand it over to your president. So you are the first ones to hear this, what will be also in our report. And of course, I will be very short, but I will say that you can find three kind of thematic ideas here. The first is the role of nature that we describe, because Ukraine's environment is a global asset. And we recognize their value the natural environments of Ukraine, their value to the global food supply and global biodiversity. And that's the first thing everybody has to understand. And also that there is a central role of Ukraine's natural splendor for the future of Ukraine, for the country's future. So this we will underscore in our report. The second theme is really Ukraine as a pioneer. And you are pioneering environmental accountability in conflict in 4 different ways. The leadership, because just to mention this as one of the points in the 10-point peace formula from your president is per se a very, very important sign of leadership. I don't think ever happened before that a leader has mentioned that as a central part of how to rebuild the country or deal with the effects of war. So I think that this leadership may change how environmental damage is viewed in conflicts all over the world. And the second way that you are pioneering is that you insist on justice for environmental crimes as a global concern. The need for criminal prosecutions and reparations from responsible parties. And the Prosecutor General has been done a great work in making sure that this is being done. And that means also the importance of robust systems for collecting evidence and develop methodologies for assessing environmental damages. So the third point really in the way you are a pioneer is that you will be setting global standards for reconstruction. So I think that this is an opportunity for Ukraine to lead in green reconstruction and to find also these systems of collecting evidence and making sure that there are standards, international standards in the future for measuring environmental damage. And the third headline for us in this compact is Ukraine as a partner. And of course, Ukraine's EU accession process, as you've already heard about, is a crucial chance to integrate significant environmental safeguards. And I also want to commend the work that your environment minister is doing, speeding up the processes, making sure that the acquis communautaire on the environment is also introduced in your legislation. So that will make it incredibly important, as well as institutional reforms. You are also a partner in global collaboration for recovery. And we underscore the necessity of international cooperation, of course, including the EU and global partners for the effective environmental recovery in Ukraine. And of course, the rest of the world has to continue supporting you in your war efforts and the need to defend your country, but also making sure that you do everything for reconstruction planning and implementation. We are also highlighting financial needs on a global scale. The rest of the world will also have to support with finances and logistical requirements for Ukraine's environmental reconstruction. So this is something that we will continue to work with other countries on. And the two last things, I would say that you are also pointing to strategic environmental planning as a global imperative as well. So the long-term strategic approach to environmental recovery in Ukraine will serve as a template for other nations facing similar challenges. So the way you do it will, I hope, inspire and be a model for other countries in the world. And finally, also public engagement. And I want to underscore this, that you have to be deliberately inclusive in everything you do, to make sure that all Ukrainians feel that this is for them. It's not only for trees and flowers and water quality, but it is for the people of Ukraine. And to make peace, you have to make peace with nature as well. So I will finish with that and say that it has been a fantastic task, a fantastic experience to work with all of you in different roles. United for Ukraine, united for nature. So Slava Ukraini.
Margot, thank you very much for your warm words and for your greetings to our audience.